Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw us some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Niall.
And I'm Kyle. And I kind of preambled this, as we were getting set up. What people might not know when you do a podcast remotely, you kind of have a couple minutes where you kind of chat. How's your day? This and that.
Yeah, you give pleasantries while one person at random points goes, check.
Yeah.
Back and forth for like 3 minutes.
Yeah. But I gotta be honest, and you and Jules have been I really appreciate how both of you will take over when I'm, not up to snuff. And I guess I'm just here to say that I'm kind of out of weird juice. Just depleted this week. Basically, I'm trying to come up with weird stuff to say, something weird I could say in the podcast. And it's all coming up normal, normie stuff. And I can't.
You're like the reverse Joker, where weird things are just normal to him. You're trying to say weird things and they're just normal.
Yeah.
You're the inverse Joker coming from Scott Snyder's new Maxi series in 2026.
Maxi series. He's teaming up with the Pads to to put this one out. Damn. Okay. All right.
Covers. Yeah. There you go.
I got the juice back. No, I guess thought of something weird.
For some reason, when a comic series is I might be talking out of my ass here, but in my memory, I've seen 12-issue series called Maxi series. When it's I thought Maxi series meant ongoing, but because mini series is 4 to 6 issues in my brain, maybe 8 even. So I don't know why you call 12 a Maxi series.
I didn't know that there was such a thing as a Maxi series, frankly.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That was so you just thought I was making a fun goof 'em up.
Kind of. I assumed it was something I'd never heard of before, but I guess it would make sense. The mini series does sort of necessitate the existence of a Maxi series. Now that you're,
it's one of those, yeah.
You're saying
if the Maxi series did not exist, we would have to create it.
So. Yeah. Can God create a mini series so big he has to call it a Maxi series?
Yeah. One day they'll build a bigger series.
Hopefully, we can only hope.
Yeah.
Now, Niall, I'm glad I got my groove back, because this is going to be such a fucking dull episode if I didn't. But to help also maybe lubricate things here, as we
got some goof lube.
I haven't thought about goof lube in a long time. We have an email. Did you know that?
I did not.
Do you mind if I read out the email?
No,
because it's from consummate listener, Weird John.
Oh, hey, Weird John.
We haven't heard from Weird John in a minute here. And Weird John says, "Hey guys, in regards to your Hat Man episode, I wanted to share some experiences I've had. When I was younger, I used to have quite a few sleep paralysis experiences. I personally have never experienced the Hat Man, trademark, which I appreciate the trademark in there. But I've had some other weird ones. The part in the story where you mentioned the dark orbs pulling someone into a crack in the ceiling reminded me of my experience. I once woke up paralyzed, and unlike usual sleep paralysis, I had a different POV and saw these two little demon children come out from under my bed, grab me, and then try to pull me into this dark abyss under my bed. Another crazy one was when I was napping on the couch in the middle of the day while my roommates were hanging out in the living room. I woke up paralyzed and then saw a giant Venus flytrap slowly trying to devour my legs. I tried to shout for help to my roommates, but was unable to speak. My third and honestly the most terrifying experience was waking up paralyzed and hearing demonic sounding whispering in my ear. I don't remember much of what was said other than the demon saying that it would make me the Obermeister or some similar German sounding word in hell. So that sounds like a leadership position in hell.
Yeah,
like
you're getting
level.
You're getting really rocketed up the corporate ladder in hell there. All right.
Like, Weird John, I don't want to tell you what to do, but this sounds like a Six Figgies situation to me.
Yeah.
In hell.
For that second one, were the roommates that were hanging out in the room watching Little Shop of Horrors?
Yes.
At the same time,
that's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, like, if you think about what sleep paralysis is, like maybe and I don't know if you've had this, but I'll have dreams where I'll pick up things that are happening, like especially audio. If like a movie's playing or a podcast is playing and I'm sleeping, it will influence what's happening in my dream. So if you're just projecting that dream out, were they watching Little Shop of Horrors and did this Venus flytrap like bust into like song about devouring your feet?
Yeah, so you got a little Audrey 2 situation going on. Yeah.
Right. They go on to say, I said the demonic whispering area. I don't remember what was said other than, the Obermeister, right? So I then heard the stereotypically masculine voice of what I assume was supposed to be God shout, "No!" And I was able to wake up.
So you had an actual Job situation where God and the devil were like
we're warring over
going against each other for you.
Yeah, this is like Google versus Amazon over here. Like,
yeah.
Sorry,
Exactly.
I told Niall that like leading up to this, I've literally been sitting at the computer doing tech work stuff all day. And so that's what's on my mind. And so I sincerely apologize to the listener for that. But I also permanently in my mind, I don't think you've watched this show, but I've been enjoying the Smiling Friends on the Adult Swim Network.
Okay.
And it's pretty funny. And in it, there is an episode where Satan gets thwarted by God, and God is voiced by God rest his soul. Oh shit. What's the guy who played Iago in Aladdin?
Oh,
his funny voice.
Yeah, Gilbert Gottfried.
Gilbert Gottfried. So that's the voice that I'm picturing when you say God walked in and yelled no. I'm hearing Gilbert Gottfried personally. You say stereotypical masculine, but
yeah. Well, I mean, Gilbert Gottfried is very masculine.
I think, frankly, Gilbert Gottfried's voice should be the archetypal masculine voice, in my opinion. It should be
default voice 1 in the character selection screen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Here, let me finish up their email real quick.
Oh, so, go ahead.
Just a little bit left. I'm agnostic in my belief about whether it's paranormal or the brain just doing weird stuff. However, one thing I like to do to help is to visualize a white aura around my body, focus on something positive, and do things to ground myself and get out of my head. It might be placebo, but I found it helps. Well, I think that makes sense. Whether it's paranormal or just your mind, I think that makes perfect sense. In both cases. Have either of you had any paranormal or sleep paralysis experiences? Also, this email has been longer than I expected, but I couldn't help but mention how I went to Indianapolis a few months ago, and holy shit, are your potholes bad? Great show as always, Weird John. So, thank you for the email, Weird John. I want to say, first of all, thank you for acknowledging our pothole situation. We do have some of the worst in the country, is my guess. I don't know who's like competing for that title, but they're pretty fucking bad out here. They just kind of get neglected for a really long time.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I've had sleep paralysis once in college. I think I told the story on either a sleep paralysis episode or maybe we have a personal experiences bonus episode really deep in the bonus archives.
Our first bonus episode ever, I think.
So if anyone wants to hear Kyle, Garrett, and I talk about our personal experiences with the Fortean, I guess, sign up to the Patreon. But Yeah, I've only really had the one sleep paralysis experience in college. It was the kind of shadowy being on my chest version,
Oh,
um,
Jesus.
pressing me down, which was pretty terrifying. But I do get aural hallucinations a lot in bed
Like
at night.
sticking their fingers in your mouth or like,
No, Aural,
oh,
aural,
oral.
because I like, and I know what it is. Like I because of my job and because of like my chosen career path, I think like I am very attuned to room acoustics,
Mm.
and so like I like will just like hear things when I'm sitting in a weird place in a room, because I can like, and I can pretty quickly narrow it down to like, oh, the corner mixed with that the like the speaker hitting the corner there is causing this kind of weird
Mm.
thing that's happening. And when I'm laying in bed at night and there's some sort of ambient noise, it's very easy for me to hear it as either music or speech. So even like a fan running while I kind of need it to sleep, I also can't. It can cause me to like hear a phantom thing that I have to like then ignore. um, so I do the whole like demonic voices thing is why I bring this up. Is like I get a lot of stuff like that where I'm just like in bed and I know that it's just because I have one ear on a pillow and the other not, and it's causing the like cochlear fluid in my ears to slosh in the way mixed with the air conditioner or whatever is causing this thing that sounds like a conversation happening in the next
Mm.
room, you know?
Oh, I would have not known that could be a culprit because I was going to say I have been, especially when I was younger, and I've brought this up on the show before, so I won't go into all the details. Sorry, Weird John. You'll have to find it in another episode. But I have audio and visual hallucinations, especially when I was younger. The main one that like when I was younger interpreted as a paranormal experience was the like fucking voices in the kitchen in my
Mhm.
parents' house when I was like, I don't know how old I was, because like I had to have been pre-teenager. I want to say somewhere between like 8 and 12 years old. And I heard voices in the kitchen, like midnight. Everybody's in bed. It's a story that I've told before where like I remember I fell asleep. I must have accidentally left the door open because I normally would close it. And I remember waking up, seeing the door is open, which like would peer out into the living room. And then there's sort of like a wall that separates the living room and the
Mhm.
kitchen. But like that wall is like, it doesn't go all the way to the ceiling. It's like sort of like a half wall. And so there was like probably plenty of like room for like acoustic shit to go down, right? Like you remember that house. So
Oh yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. And like, I remember waking up and hearing voices that sounded inhuman or at least just like not a language I could recognize in the kitchen. And like, but I also wasn't sure. And I remember calling out for my parents and just as soon as I called out and made noise, the voices just stopped. And
Okay.
I remember like freaked the fuck out, running up to my door, slamming it shut, locking it, turning the lights on, and like shivering under the covers all night and until I fell asleep. And that one freaked me the fuck out. But like I would also like I also remember like one time I fell asleep on the couch in front of the TV and like my parents had gone to bed and they just like left me to stay on the couch and sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night, they'd shut everything in the living room off, so it was pitch black, but I could make out in like moonlight the electrical the cable to our TV going up into the outlet. And the visual hallucination I had was that the cable was like slithering like a snake.
Oh wow. Okay.
I used to have that when I was much younger. Now it's just like if I get really tired or if I take certain medications, I'll hallucinate insects out of the corner of my eye moving fast. So none of this is stuff that I would personally
It gets weird. It's a real hallucinate at night podcast, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally. I have to look. I wouldn't attribute any of this to like the paranormal personally.
Yeah.
It's all my mind. Like, long story short, I took medication long ago that ever since I stopped taking that medication, I now get to see little spiders and ants out of the corner of my eye that aren't there.
I don't need to take that medication. Then.
Yeah.
that would freak me the fuck out.
But I definitely, when I was younger, interpret all these things as being paranormal. Like, I thought that there were like, I remember in the episode whenever I brought up the thing about the voices in the kitchen, I remember interpreting that in my little kid brain as like basically shadow people with glowing eyes. Like I just like pictured that in my mind's eye and like, oh, well, the demons are here. And then I remember the next day I woke up and there were like footprints in the carpet that like I was convinced like, oh, the thing like came into my room while I was sleeping. Scared the fuck out of me. But I was young. Now I think it's just totally explainable, but nonetheless, it still freaks you out, you know? It still creeps you out.
Like you were a kid that was worried about it and it freaked you out.
Anyways, thank you for the email. There's definitely there's the personal experiences thing on the Patreon, but there's also an episode where I think we talk about this stuff.
I'm pretty sure.
So, anyways,
So, Kyle, this week I got together an episode. Basically, I don't remember where I keep a list of possible topics that I just like kind of revert to looking at whenever I don't have something that I'm really like actively wanting to do. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember when I put this note in there, but I just had written the words comet Elenin. And I was like, why did I write, what is comet Elenin? And turns out I ended up talking about this because I do have an interest in like doomsday scenarios and like supposed apocalyptic events that come to pass. And so I figured now is a good time to talk about one possible kind of doomsday comet, specifically Comet Elenin, which was a relatively recent phenomenon, relatively recent thing from 2011. And just the thing that I enjoyed about this is basically, the reason I'm doing this episode is because we get to hear theories from people that we've talked about on this podcast about this comet from 2011. So I have reports on what this is and what it's going to do from names from podcast favorites such as Laura Knight Yadchik, Alfred Lambermont Weber, Michael Sala. And our good old friend of the pod, Richard Hoagland, makes an appearance as well in this. Hoagland. So I wanted to take some time to talk about basically doomsday comets and also specifically the stories related to Comet Elenin.
Have you ever gone and there's the person who uploads the Art Bell archives onto podcatchers? I don't know if you've ever checked those out, but
yeah, I got it saved on my podcatcher.
There's some Hoagland episodes where from like the 90s. Hoagland is like, I mean, like a lot of people in the sort of Art Bell coast to coast sphere, a lot of people, but Hoagland in particular is like addicted to being wrong.
Part of researching this episode was I found some clips and also just some write-ups on Hoagland, I believe on Coast to Coast or another podcast similar to it, talking about the probabilities of this comet existing with all of his kind of 19.5 degree ritualistic significance kind of math. And it's just like 10 minutes of him. There's a podcast that I listened to that I think is worth. It's like a half an hour long podcast. By the name of it is here we go. Exposing Pseudo Astronomy. And it's the Comet Elenin special. And this person basically just goes through Hoagland's like segment piece by piece, just like talking about how every piece of math that he gives is wrong.
Oh,
and
I'll have
it's
to
really
listen to
kind of
that.
satisfying. So
It's
shouts out to exposing pseudo astronomy. It was a very good listen.
it's honest. I mean, like Art Bell, that shit is so entertaining. And Hoagland, I do believe the episode I was listening to most recently had to have been like in the late 90s ish when we sent
Hmm.
out a Mars rover. And I think that the debate that kept happening where like Hoagland is like emphatically disagreeing with Art Bell is like Hoagland's like, yeah, we are not gonna. They're saying we're sending like a Mars rover, but we're not actually gonna be able to land on Mars. And Art's just like, well, Dr. Hoagland, that's where I'm going to have to disagree with you.
He is so certain in everything he's saying.
It's great.
And he will interrupt anyone, but you cannot interrupt
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Hoagland does not like getting interrupted, but he will talk over literally anyone. One of the things I like the most about doing this podcast is kind of getting an idea of this kind of whack pack of people that we cover and talk about and kind of come back to. So like Hoagland really sticks out and as one that I've spent a lot of time with because I did the bonus series on one of his books, and have just kind of I did all those episodes like it. So anytime I get a chance to like check in with like Hoagland's wild ass theories, I know I'm always in for a good time. That's going to be like kind of confusing and entirely nonsensical, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, the whack pack of this stuff. And you've gravitated towards how would I describe? Because you've gravitated towards a particular type that shares a Venn diagram heavily with like UFO conspiracy stuff, but like they have their own unique brand. It's like motherfuckers talking about like Mars jump rooms and shit, and the face of Mars and Sidonia. Like that is a lot of Hoagland's shtick, but like I feel like you traffic in a lot of people who are, I mean, the people you listed talking about this comet are like the people that you seem to be gravitating towards, which like, I don't know what you would call their sort of subset of conspiracy, you know?
Yeah, I don't know because like Sala is tied in with like the exopolitics stuff.
Yeah.
And to a degree so is Hoagland. But in a strange way. And like Laura Knight Yadchik is a channeler, like you're right. I have a type. And it's people who I don't even know what to call them because it's not like they intellectualize it more than other people, but they're just like really willing to stick their ass out and be wrong constantly.
They like yapping. They're yappers.
Yeah. Maybe that's just because I like them because that gives us stuff to talk about. They talk a lot and like take a lot of shots. But anyway, so let's start with just some basic facts. Comet Elenin, named after the Russian astronomer who's an amateur astronomer who discovered it, named Leonid Elenin, which the name... it's going to be really hard not to jump ahead to the funny stuff while doing this, but just for a second...
I understand.
One of the theories about the comet Elenin is that Elenin is actually an acronym for like, you know, I think I have it further down in my notes, but it's so like, you know how the like Marvel Comics has like Shield, where it's like they obviously called it Shield and then later went back and tried to figure out the whole backronym thing.
How do you spell Elenin?
Elenin.
Elenin. So it's like extraterrestrial life exists near interplanetary. I'll think about it. I mean, it sounds like you've got some to pitch.
I think I have it down here. But anyway, we'll continue on. It's just one of those things that really popped me about this is anytime someone tries to like go that hard with it being like an acronym about an apocalypse, it's just so silly to me.
It's got the same vibes as like numerology people where they're like trying to read symbols into like the numbers or whatever. So yeah, I get it.
So he was basically the thing. Okay, I don't know a whole lot about astronomy. But supposedly what he was doing is he's an amateur astronomer who was like getting time to watch a robotic observatory near Mayhill, New Mexico. So he like lived in Russia and was over the internet able to look at this camera that was aimed up into the sky in Mayhill, New Mexico. And he discovered this comet that was approximately 401 million miles from Earth, which is, you know, around Jupiter. Like it was that about that far away. On December 10th, 2010. This is, as far as I remember, it was it was pretty dim. It wasn't very like it was a pretty dim star, or not star, a pretty dim comet, respectively. And it, like, I don't know a lot about comets, but everything that I see from people who actually know stuff about comets is like, this was the most like humdrum run of the mill comet. Like it has a couple things about it with like its orbit that sure, it's whatever, but like I'm not fully certain why this one specifically led to such a fucking fervor. Is
it like proximity to Earth? You think like, because like usually with these comets, they are like, well, based on the trajectory, it's going to be this close, right? Like we always have these stories that come out every couple of years of like, oh, a comet came by real close to Earth or whatever, and it's always like, yeah, like give or take a couple thousand miles or whatever.
Yeah, it was kind of going to pass close-ish to Earth, but not to a degree, like not without the realm, outside of the realm of normalcy, you know?
Right.
Like
sure,
it wasn't, but I do have some stuff about it that I think I might have found the source, but I can't confirm that it actually is the reason. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So this is what is called a long period comet. It has a very large elongated orbit. At its most remote point, it's going to take over. It's going to be 1,000 times further from the sun than it is the Earth. It goes through what is known as the Oort cloud at its distant end, so it's considered an Oort cloud comet. And the Oort cloud, I guess, is basically the far extents of our solar system and all the like the stuff that is at that like far extent.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is considered an Oort cloud comet. You'll see that referenced. And it takes approximately so yeah, the Oort cloud is approximately 1.5 light years from the sun. And that's how far this thing goes out. It has a very, very extended orbit, and it was supposed to come across Earth in the fall of 2011. So the fall of 2011, approximately around September, which will come up later, it's going to pass by Earth at its closest point. So that's kind of the timeline of all of these events. Is discovered at the very, very tail end of 2010, going to pass by Earth in the fall of 2011. So most of the stuff about the theories and everything happened between those two time points.
Okay. Billy Joe Armstrong is going to have a rude awakening in end of September if this thing hits the Earth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the thing that I think is really funny is one of Hoagland's things that he talks about is how it's supposed to be, it's actually going to pass by Earth on September 11th. And because that's like the 10-year anniversary of the attacks, it has to be like, that's ritual. That's like significant in a way. Now, supposedly when it's actually closest,
fucking Pentagon.
Yeah. But supposedly, in reality, it was at its closest on September 9th. But that didn't really, that didn't fit with the ritual.
Right.
So,
The
Anyway,
ritual, yeah.
I will forever have the phrase ritualistic significance burned into my brain from reading Hoagland's books.
How do we know
that
this
is
comet's not operated by an alien and they're trying to do a 9/11 on us
Kyle?
globally?
You gotta stick with me,
Okay,
because
okay.
we will get to what if this is a starship.
Okay.
Because
we got to learn to keep our mouths fucking shut on this stuff, you know?
like
Let it
literally
play
one
out.
of the there are multiple different theories involving aliens and this comet, and we will talk about them. I like this because it's such. I think I have a thing with these kind of apocalyptic scenarios because of that time that we went to a music festival on the day that the world was supposed to end.
Oh, yeah.
In 2012.
I remember that. I forgot that was like supposed to line up with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, nothing came of it, but I remember the lead up to. I remember like seeing news about it at a favorite local pizza place in our hometown. Like I remember seeing it and being like, why the fuck is this on the news? And yeah, nothing did ever come of that whole 2012 thing.
It is forever immortalized on the Live at Crazy Fest self-defense family tape where Patrick does a whole rant about apocalyptic scenarios and belief and everything, and it leads to the better a child should die than live bereft of subculture rant, which is an all-timer. But I will always remember watching Anti-Flag play while the supposed Mayan apocalyptic end of the calendar apocalypse was happening.
I mean, what better thing to do during the apocalyptic flyover of Nibiru than watch a big punk festival, in my opinion.
Yeah. And the thing that part of what led me to really hone in on Comet Elenin is that in one of the theories, Comet Elenin is the kind of almost Silver Surfer-esque forebearer of the Nibiru cataclysm in 2012.
Okay, so like Herald of Galactus type shit.
Basically, yeah. Like there is a theory that it is either a forebearer or a psyop to cover up the Nibiru cataclysm.
God.
There's a lot of shit here. So let's talk a little bit about the comet here, just so because there's some stuff that will be important for the theories later. So you will find various things about Comet Elenin put out there, but as far as I can tell, the actual facts are that at its heart, the nucleus is like about was like I think 2 miles across or something. A lot of places will say that it was like way bigger than that, and that comes from a kind of a misattribution of the nucleus versus the cloud surrounding it. It had a very big cloud around it, but the actual nucleus was pretty small and like normal sized for a comet. Like straight up, some people will claim that it was borderline like planet or moon sized in reports because they just didn't get good information. Like people thought that it should be visible to the naked eye with how big it is. And that was never true. That like, it just wasn't, it's just a pretty normal comet. Yeah. And in reality, it didn't, it did not really pose a threat in any way, shape or form. It was going to kind of pass by. And scientists of note, after like the initial kind of research, were more confused as to why everyone was making such a big deal out of this than actually worried about anything. And so if you look up Comet Elenin, you'll find like facts and trying to calm the public panicky kind of stuff on like NASA and space.com and stuff where it's like, guys, you don't have to worry about Comet Elenin.
It's so I mean, imagine having to be the like PR person who has to like deal with that or whatever, like just has to figure out a way to stop these fucking people from thinking a comet's about to hit the earth based off of these crackpots just going out there and telling, like, just proselytizing apocalypse, you know? Did you ever listen to, speaking of all the Art Bell stuff, there is like an entire Hail Bop saga, which I think I brought up on the like Art Bell episodes we did.
Uh-huh.
And it's fucking wild. It's so good. It's really stupid, and it's also like Hale-Bopp was the comet that was like, I think either a herald of or the starship for the alien that was going to like come and it was the starship that was going to like pass over Earth and take all
The Heaven's Gate.
the Heaven's Gate people, and so
Mhm.
that was a whole fiasco in the Art Bell Hale-Bopp saga. Folks, if you like what we're talking about here on this show, and haven't listened to the Hale-Bopp Art Bell saga, just go find it online somewhere. It's great.
Yeah, Hale-Bopp is honestly, I was thinking about Hale-Bopp a lot when doing this episode because it's a thing that I eventually want to do, and this is sometimes I'll like test run a type of topic with a lesser version, and so that I can do the big one later.
Yeah.
And this is kind of my figuring out how to talk about doomsday
Hale-Bopp.
comets.
Ooh, okay.
So that eventually I can maybe cover Hale-Bopp.
I would love that,
because I really like forecasted apocalypses. I just find that as such like an interesting, weird release valve on humanity that like these people will just like set aside their entire lives due to how certain they are that the world is ending on this specific day, and they're doing all this shit to prepare for it, and like it's wrong every time, but people still with the same level of fervor go back to it over and over again, you know?
I mean, I know I don't have to point this out for anybody, but it's like not only are they wrong every time, but it never seems to cause any questioning to their like validity as like a researcher or whatever they're selling themselves as. It never ends up coming back to bite them. You move on to the next panic, and it works every time, I guess. And you know that when there is a comet that's coming directly for Earth, and like we have scientifically been able to be like, oh, it's coming and it's gonna kill us all, they're gonna say it's a fake, it's a conspiracy. You know, that's the way it's gonna go.
Yep. So a couple factors I think led to the public reaction to this thing. First of which, I do think that the idea of the 2012 doomsday thing was already in the air in like the mid to late 2011. So just like people were kind of prepped to hear doomsday type stuff like that, and especially if you're tuned into that kind of thing. So I think that basically we were the conspiracy community and the pseudo astronomy community. We're kind of looking for anything that would lead to the 2012 doomsday, so it kind of caught fire that way. But a person that I saw referenced a lot in various scenarios and rundowns of this was a paper by a guy named Dr. Mansour Omar Basic, which he is a guy who basically publishes, from my understanding, pretty dubious scientific papers about looking for anything in the solar system that could be passing by Earth or having some sort of effect on Earth at the time of big earthquakes across the globe. So he published a paper that tied the comet Elenin to a couple earthquakes across Earth by basically saying it was passing by in a way that its mass, because it's so big and so scary, was pulling the tides and pulling the magnetic field of the Earth and interacting with that and causing earthquakes. So
that doesn't, so like, okay. How close does this, can I ask how close this thing ever gets to Earth? Like, do you have the number? Because if it's
do somewhere,
if it's not like as close or closer than the moon, I don't see how any of that holds any water.
It never got Like it wasn't that.
Their
It also
argument
was. It was also was so small that it would not have any sort of actual impact
right,
on the Earth
exactly.
magnetically.
So their entire thing hinges on this assumption that it's like just so much bigger than the actual data suggests.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and the reason, so there's a couple factors in this whole assumption about why this thing is either being lied about, covered up, or misunderstood, and those things are kind of a couple fold. So, basically, they think it's bigger than it is, and that's because it is. This paper said that it caused these natural disasters. Therefore, to do that, it has to be bigger than scientists think it is. And so, because we can't, and it's also dim, so we can't see it. So they started to think that it was a brown dwarf star or a black hole that was coming towards Earth and not actually a comet. So this is one of the theories.
Okay.
This is the thing that Hoagland will talk
Yeah.
about. This is a thing that various other people will talk about. It isn't actually a comet. It's a brown dwarf star that is coming into our solar system. And that has such mass and pull. And also it isn't very bright. So it fits all these factors for them to...
We don't have to insult its intelligence.
Look, it's not my fault that they have a low IQ. They're a low IQ fucking lord. And it's...
Low IQ... fucking
probably low
beta,
T,
yeah, low T. I want to throw this out there. The thing that I always feel when hearing theories from people like Hoagland or this guy who you're talking about, can we not agree that like that outer space, the cosmos, is like extremely fascinating without making a bunch of shit up? Like it seems like you're kind of gilding the lily a little bit by saying like, actually it's a secret brown dwarf that's hurtling towards Earth, like it, which I don't think makes any sense in any world of physics that we're aware of. I don't know.
Now I will say I did just find the anagram. And so to get to this, if it's a brown dwarf star, there are people that then took that as the fact that Comet Elenin is secretly actually Nibiru.
Okay.
Other people will think that it's kind of the scion of Nibiru, like the Silver Surfer of Nibiru. But the people that think it was Nibiru, Elenin stood for extinction level event. Nibiru is near.
That's honestly so sick. I didn't like conceptualize Nibiru as like a needing a herald. But I do love that they're just like all this comic book theorizing shit we do with conspiracies. Fuck it. It's the Silver Surfer. It just is. That's great.
Yeah. And like, I think part of what also led to this, so one of the big people that kind of tried to shoot down a lot of the theories and everything was someone who worked for JPL. His name was Donald Yeomans, and he straight up said that the comet is actually kind of wimpy and nothing to be concerned about. And he ended up quoting the Monty Python Dead parrot sketch and saying it isn't, because eventually the comet breaks up on its way here. And he starts saying that it's like that sketch. It's an X comet. It is no more.
Okay.
And so he's literally just like dunking on conspiracy theorists with Monty Python references, which I find kind of funny. But in reality, he's just trying to like calm the public down because these people keep yelling that the world's going to end when it's just a regular fucking comet. There was another part of it that Hoagland was saying that I forget what the specific term for it was. It's a like hyper something comet. Let me see if I can find it in here. And he was saying on this interview that I was listening to that it's the only one of its kind that has ever been found in history and documented. And literally, like, if you just look it up, there have been like 250 of this specific type of comet. It's not like super common or anything, but it's not nearly what he's saying.
Sure.
and it's like easily Googleable. I don't really know why he would do that. But yeah. So let's see. So I let's start just digging into some of these people. We've talked a little bit about Hoagland, but let's go back and talk about Laura Knight Yadchik.
Who, if people will recall, was an alien channeling. So, like, there are channelers who not just connect with spirits, but they connect with alien beings. I forget which one she connected with.
She is the part of the Cassiopean experiment,
right?
So
also,
she's
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but notably,
no,
we did get an email from a person who found our podcast a while back through our episode about Laura Knight Yadchik, because they claimed to be basically an ex-cult member of Laura Knight Yadchik.
It's true.
So, like, that's just the kind of personality we're dealing with here.
Yeah. So Laura Knight Yadchik is channeling someone called Andromeda, along with someone named Percival. So she basically is asking about this planet and stuff, or about this this comet. I keep saying planet.
They're getting into your head.
Yeah. So this was from February 14th, 2011.
Oh,
so
Valentine's
this was on
Day,
Valentine's
right?
Day.
Okay, nice.
But she supposedly they were the first to, this is where we first found out that the comet had passed Jupiter, which was told to her by Percival. Which was not public information yet. Like, supposedly no one knew that, but this fucking channeled being. And he said that this thing was 500 kilometers in diameter along the long axis, and is growing. So it's going to be straight up a like cataclysmic event. 500 kilometers is the core, not the coma. That's like the nucleus, which is the like central mass of the comet. And he basically, he straight up says that there's going to be a return of the Black Death because of this comet. It's going to start, or it might start in Europe, but he's not certain. But those that have a certain genetic profile may suffer very little. So we get a little like thinly veiled racism in there as well.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It like you explained it before my brain could like process what you said and figure out that that's what was going on. So thank you.
Well, supposedly smoking tobacco is a clue and an aid. So I think for some reason smoking is going to help save you from the Black Death.
Well, that's, that I smoke cigarettes to combat COVID, right?
Yeah.
Like that, you get a nice like lining of tar in your lungs and it can't actually get in you. So there might be something to
I mean, it keeps you going. So, well, supposedly.
And I smoke Camel Whites. So
instead of longs,
yeah.
That took me off guard. I don't even know. I was trying to imagine what a wide cigarette would look like. It would just be like fat.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah. All right. So the Black Death virus is supposedly something that is caused by aliens. We find out here, which I think it's really funny for this channeling event about Comet Elenin to just immediately be like, oh yeah, Black Death is coming back. And you do find out that I believe that the reason the Black Death is involved in this is because there's like a separate channeling thing going on at the time with her, specifically about the cosmic connection to the Black Death plague. So that's the thing that she's like shoehorning
we're doing
into
some synergy
other
here.
stuff now.
I
kind of some cross promotion stuff with her other books.
Because like I don't recall reading about Laura Knight Yadchik when I did the Black Death UFOs thing. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah.
I did an episode where like basically there were some conspiracy theorists who were looking back at the Black Death and saying it was UFOs, it was aliens, like custodian extraterrestrial beings who like would come and do like humanity culling by spraying, like they would come to planet Earth and spray Black Death on us, basically was the idea.
Yeah.
But I'm curious why I didn't run across Laura Knight Yadchik. That's an angle that I missed.
I think she kind of dips her toe into a lot of things,
Sure.
so I wouldn't be surprised to, you know, she probably wasn't a core part of that. But just some like wild ass shit to wrap this up with her. Supposedly, colloidal silver will help to fight off the plague. It's
Okay.
not a cure by itself, but it's very helpful. And also, there's some dietary changes that they'd recommend to help keep this at
Okay.
bay. And you specifically want fat consumption for cell protection. And they recommend shortbread cookies with coconut oil specifically.
Okay. I can get down with that.
I don't know why. I'm assuming that also ties in. I feel like Lorna Yachik maybe had like a cooking blog as well that she was doing like kind of like on the homestead fucking
Sure.
recipes and things.
Would it-
and so it feels like she's just cross promoting here.
Yeah, a little bit. Would it be acceptable if I kind of made them into little thumbprint cookies with like a jam in the center? Like, I mean, as long as I stick with the core recipe to help.
You should
Black
maybe
Death.
just maybe if you can make a colloidal silver jam,
Ooh,
that would be a good
that's
mix
a
here.
fantastic idea, actually. Colloidal silver jam thumbprint sugar cookies. I like that. We might have to see if we can get a business going, like putting those out.
It's really the best way to stave off most infections and
Sure.
viruses, because viruses, as you now know, are typically alien.
True.
Yeah. There's also a random thing about trying to tie this comet in with another asteroid
Sorry,
called.
I just pictured an Otis Spunkmeyer wrapper that had colloidal silver jam sugar cookies. Sorry, but go ahead.
And this is just one of those things that I included because it confused me. Supposedly there was another asteroid 596 Sheila was related to Comet Elenin, and they're the same thing because when I'm assuming this is in the Electric Universe version of electrified, but an asteroid becomes a comet when it becomes electrified in this. And that just is not something that I was expecting to read or understand.
No. I mean, like, the Electric Universe is like sort of a difficult idea all on its own.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to parse it in this context, honestly.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like
I
they're
don't
just
really either.
throwing, terms at you that will signal to whatever conspiracy person you've managed to sort of rope into your idea. It'll make them go, oh, I recognize that, and they'll. It's we've talked about this before. It's like the shotgun method of like the scatter shot method of like getting as many people in on your idea as possible by like signaling to every conspiracy under the sun, basically.
Yeah. If you wrap enough stuff into it, then enough people will find what you're talking about and share your article. So that's kind of the Yadchik side of things. I just the cookie recommendation took me so off guard that I just had to like bring up her channeling experiences. I really like this next one because this is so fucking up my alley. This is the Alfred Labermont Weber who does the Exopolitics TV website.
Oh, right. Okay.
So this is basically the Exopolitics TV coverage. There was an interview with a guy who will come up a decent amount if you read about Comet Elenin, named Donnie Gilson, who's also sometimes known as Don Adams. And he is a 32nd degree Freemason, and also a researcher into the Comet Elenin, along with Nibiru and various other things.
Okay. Every once in a while, you'll be reading about a conspiracy thing that is like really, really wackadoo, and you'll find somebody who like I always assume that like these people by default do not trust or like Freemasons. So why is the like, I don't know. Is it that there's like two? I don't understand the Freemasonry thing, like being a part of the conspiracy angle, because I feel like 99% of conspiracy theorists would like dismiss anything to do with Freemasonry just out of hand, right? Like
You would think so, yeah, but I think that it's one of those things that it just is like, if you have it as one of a couple things on your resume, people just kind of ignore the implications of it,
mm,
and just like, if you're giving them content, they'll kind of look past it, because I don't think a lot of these people have a level of um pickiness, or I don't want to say integrity, but kind of integrity, to just be like,
no, I think you
oh,
can.
Freemasons are free. That's just not a thing that I want to deal with. So
He's one of the
they'll
good
just
ones.
be like, yeah, like it falls under a lot of that. So this guy Don Adams, or Donnie Gilson, is sharing this theory from a whistleblower named Michael Prince, who had supposedly worked with U.S. intelligence since 1964. And this theory basically boils down to the fact that Elenin and Nibiru are part of a Draco-reptilian invasion of Earth, and Comet Elenin is actually the extraterrestrial mothership that is bringing these reptilians to Earth.
Now, if I'm remembering my Draco-reptilian lore correctly, that is a race of reptoid beings that are like big, ferocious, and warrior-like, right? Like those are the more.
Well, that's the Alpha Draconians.
So are the
this doesn't have Alpha in it at all. Like there might be Alpha Draconians in this, but it's just basically, this is the reptilian invasion of Earth, effectively.
Okay. So reptilians are flying in on Elenin, it sounds like.
Correct. There supposedly is a trio of comets, Elenin, Levi, and Honda, that will, with Elenin being the mothership and the other two, I guess, just being other ships, or maybe they're actual comets. It's not very specific. But these will all precede the passage of the actual brown dwarf star Nibiru, which was going to take place on March 22nd, 2012, which will then trigger the full pole shift on Earth, and the death of most of mankind. Which will then lead to the reptilian invasion to capture as many human souls as possible for imprisonment and consumption by the Gray Reptilian Alliance.
Okay, let me see if I can. Let me see if I've interpreted this correctly, and you can tell me.
Mm-hmm.
So, the reptilians are sort of heralding the arrival of Nibiru, which is a brown dwarf, which will then collide with Earth and kill everybody.
Not collide, but it will pass by and cause a pole shift.
And it'll whatever it does, it's like killing everybody on Earth just about, right?
Correct.
And in killing everybody on Earth, the souls of the people who die will depart their bodies, which means they can be, I guess, harvested. So
Correct.
Is the idea that the reptilians are like intervening before the souls can fly up to heaven? Above the firmament or whatever? Like
I don't know the specifics of that, the methodology, but supposedly there's the Gray Draco, like Gray Reptilian Alliance, and the Greys supposedly have this technological this technology, which are basically soul cages.
Okay, so you're doing a Ghostbusters sort of thing.
Yeah. Like they're basically sticking a big soul vacuum above the Earth and letting all of humankind die from this pole shift. This is straight up the kind of. This theory will be somewhat familiar to people that have looked into the Hale-Bopp, because this is a bit like some theories around that. That supposedly the Hale-Bopp comet had this was like sacrificing 100,000 human souls as tribute to the Gray Reptilian Alliance. And the Heaven's Gate cult was a psyop to kind of cover for this. That's the theory that it just throws at the end here.
Jesus Christ. That We really gotta stop calling these theories. we should call them
Stories.
like
Yeah, we're going to
conspiracy
start just calling them stories.
Yeah.
Because, well, and here's the thing. This guy had so much evidence and so much research and stuff,
Oh.
but then there was an illegal search and seizure of his
No.
of all of his stuff, and it was stolen
That's
from
the
him.
Evidence.
Yeah, they held him for 72 hours, and when he got back, all of his stuff was gone, and there were like 10 squad cars around and it harassed him. And
No, don't tell me that.
yeah.
That's what we needed to prove that all this shit was going to happen in 2011.
Yeah, so like I'm glad the story got out there, even though the evidence wasn't available. And at least we know.
To their credit, sometimes I do feel like I got my soul harvested in 2011, and I've been trapped in reptoid hell ever since. To their credit, I do feel that way sometimes.
Yeah. So the last kind of theory I have here is story.
Is this the Hoagland angle, or?
Well, Hoagland was in on it as part of the kind of invasion stuff, if I remember correctly. He was talking about how important this comet was because it was so statistically impossible, and all of his math was definitely real and true. And he was finding 19.5s and all of that math throughout it because it's, and so basically he was trying to prove that it was actually an intentional thing that was being interacted with probably by aliens to kind of go to cross paths with Earth in a ritualistic significance way that would then lead to a kind of cataclysm.
Okay.
He's wrapped in all of that stuff.
You could skip the ritual thing and just cause the cataclysm with the fucking comet, right? Like,
yeah, like that.
I mean, I guess
we
if
cannot,
it's a ritual
we cannot start
or a prophecy.
We cannot start questioning the efficacy of rituals for Hoagland, because like everything he talks about is either someone looking at a grainy photo or trying to prove why that grainy photo is important because of numbers and rituals.
Okay.
So like you can't, rituals have to be significant for anything Richard Hoagland has ever said to be like real at all,
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, so basically he was proving that it was some sort of, the comet was kind of artificial. And also he does factor into this one because he's also a proponent of this theory in that if the comet is real and is actually just a normal comet, then when it comes by Earth, it might have exposed an artificial energy shield around Earth.
Okay.
Question mark? So, we'll go here. So the comet Elenin,
the energy shield.
Well, no, the energy shield. We're going to talk about that a little bit here because
okay.
I'm going to explain what that means. I feel like for this theory to make sense in context, you have to look at it as this is September 3rd when this was published. This is when there have already been like confirmed reports that the comet has broken up and it's smaller than everyone thought it was, and is not actually going to do anything important and isn't going to be significant in any way, shape, or form. So this is like a late period pivot to try to make something out of this comet at all. And so they take, yet again, instead of looking at rituals here, we're going to instead look at blurry photos, the other Hoagland methodology. And this comes around to the fact that supposedly when it was going past some of these telescopes as it was coming closest to Earth, it had this, there was this kind of flash and fade of light that happened that he very specifically thinks is really important. And that is when this comet hit an artificial energy shield around Earth. So it's effectively the reaction of the solid object bouncing off of this artificial shield that we have.
So this is a shield that we've put in place. Secret space
that
program
has been put in place. It's
secret space program type shit. Is that my?
I mean, kind of. It's. I'm trying to remember the exact specifics of. I'm trying to remember if he tells us where it came from or if he just tells us that
It just says there's an energy shield that's there. By the way, just for people who aren't aware, there's an energy shield there. That might explain the giant flash of light the other day. There is a big energy shield that nobody knows about.
Look, giant is saying a lot. It's not. Oh, and also it's not just a shield; it's a tetrahedral shield, which is very important for Hoagland.
Yeah, my bad.
Because tetrahedrons are kind of his. They get him hard. It's like 19.5.
Like going into like school, like learning geometry or something. Like, can he just like he could just like kind of focus up on the map?
He would. The problem is he would get so into just like one thing in math, like he would only look at tetrahedrons, and like someone would ask him to do something else and he just would not have any fucking interest in it whatsoever. It's like he is so. The thing that I like and find charming about Hoagland, with everything that is like ridiculous about him, is his like single-mindedness of these couple specific things that are like cosmically important to a level that is immutable. And the 19.5 degrees and the tetrahedrons are like so just, they're like sacred objects to him. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, so he found some images that he thinks show both Elenin being a spacecraft along with the spacecraft running into this shield. Basically, it really just comes down to the fact that he saw there's like a frame of a picture of the Elenin where it looks brighter than it does in the other frames around it, and that is basically the basis for this entire theory. And so it's just these like videos from various telescopes that he's trying to like, you know, he's bringing into his image editing software to fuck with the saturation and grain and everything. To make it work. So like it's some people think it was a camera anomaly. Some people think it was like light reflecting off of another star another planet. In that like the angle caught it just right, you know. In which case maybe it was a 19.5 degree angle, and that's part of it. I don't fucking know.
What's the 19.5 degree angle thing exactly? Like, why is that important? Can you? You're laughing. Can you explain it to me at all?
So that is the angle.
You're the Hogland
where
expert.
That came from. Yeah, it is the angle that he looks for between any two of the points on Mars. So like it is effectively, he thinks that aliens have a different kind of number system that is based on, I don't remember the exact, like if it's a different numerical base or what, but it makes it so instead of like dealing with 90-degree angles and stuff,
19.5 recurs. Is that the idea?
Things will be at a 90. Yeah. So like if you look at the angle between, like if you draw a straight line from like the face of Mars to the pyramid on Mars, it will be, and you put it across like, you know, you can make anything a fucking 19.5 degree angle if you want to, because you're just like fucking throwing like
I would argue
there's no x-axis.
Okay, sure.
There's no x-axis on Mars, you know?
Right,
like there's no,
I mean,
you can make it anything you want, but he has found it in enough places along with like it I think it also has to do with like escape trajectories leaving Earth for rockets and stuff, because there's
because we're like using alien technology or whatever. Is my immediate guess.
It's ritualistically significant.
Right, okay.
Like all of his stuff is coming down to the fact that like NASA is a series of intricately planned rituals that are all trying to make sure the mission goes well by not like failing to do the ritual. Mm-hmm. Like it's not like they're serving some specific higher being that they're like, because like you think the rituals would be for a being or for like a god of some kind. but they're just for the secret society to signal to each other that everyone knows what's going on effectively.
Of course. Because the secret societies
it's basically
are
his version of the Illuminati triangle.
The secret societies are all pouring over like launch trajectories of like rockets, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, just wanted to throw this out there, but I'm going to announce this here. I'm putting together a GoFundMe to preserve Richard Hoagland's brain after death, and we can put him in one of those vats Futurama style, and he can just keep going. Like he can basically, if we want this research completed, and I know you listening at home do, we'll just preserve him, and he can just find 19.5 degree angles forever. If we get the money together to put his brain in a vat.
Hey, maybe Hoagland will find ritualistically significant angles in your home if you bring him in.
That's true. That's actually a perk that we're offering for the higher donators. We're gonna bring him.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring Richard Hoagland into your home, and he's going to identify all the angles of ritualistic significance in your home. And you can sort of, Hoagland. You can feng shui it Hogland style.
Yeah. And Hoagland also is one of the guys that was really into the fact that this was supposedly going to come close to Earth on September 11th. And how, because it was in 2011, that's the 10-year anniversary, so it's 10 times less likely to have happened. Like, this is the kind of math he's doing to try to make this seem like it's important. Where he's just like saying a thing that is a number and be like, and you gotta multiply that by this. So this is a 1 in 4.5 billion%, like 1 in 4.5 billion chance that this would happen. So therefore it is artificial and intentional.
I have never seen A Beautiful Mind, but I have to assume it's about this man.
Like you could easily,
because his mind is beautiful.
Yeah, you could easily do something like that about someone like Richard Hoagland, and it would be such, like, you could make the pop star of A Beautiful Mind movies about someone like Richard Hoagland, where you just take the piss out of that kind of glorified like biopic,
Yeah.
But that's an idea for someone else to take a crack at. Yeah, that's really like the main meat of it. A lot of people thought the world was going to end by this tiny comet that had no real significance whatsoever, and a bunch of conspiracy theorists online went into a tizzy over it, and then had to like backtrack shit when it didn't happen. As is kind of
that's just the form. That's
common.
Just what you do.
Yeah. There wasn't, because of this thing, there wasn't like a World War III or a cataclysm or any of the shit that people thought was going to happen. And there's also, I don't believe there's actually an artificial energy shield around Earth that was hit by this comet / spaceship. But that's what they thought.
Well, maybe we'll find another good comet that we can do this whole shtick with.
I found out there's more of them than I thought there was.
Yeah.
When you look up one, you just kind of find like, yeah. So I'm gonna look into some other options and maybe have another comet episode.
Hoagland is truly the gift that keeps on giving. He's still alive, right? Like, he's still out there doing his shit, right? Like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And it also reminds me, we gotta check back in one of these days. Not to pull the spotlight away from Hoagland.
Mm-hmm.
We got to check back in on the big cheese Basiago sometime. We got to see what he's been up to. It was the Pegasus Project or whatever.
Yeah, Project Pegasus, and I'm curious if that Facebook group still exists.
It does. I belong to it. I belong to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I never got kicked out, so I believe I'm still on it. I just haven't opened Facebook in a year.
I check periodically because I added myself to as many weirdo groups as I could, including that one. And it's been disheartening because it'll be like a lot of people posting a lot of bullshit. And then every once in a while it'll be like somebody, like I saw the other day, somebody was like, check out the Stan Romanek documentary from 2012. And I'm like, oh no. How the fuck are people still how is this acceptable? In what world is it acceptable to you? Like, I get being into like your particular brand of crackpot guy, but like, how can you possibly still be like shilling for Stan Romanek? There's so many, like, move on. Like, we know. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Well, I for one, I do like the apocalyptic, event stuff, but again, it's another one of those areas that you have gravitated towards, no pun intended. And I look forward to your Hale Bob coverage in the future, because that's a really crazy story.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to do a quick big question?
Sure.
So I kind of went general here just because I think it felt apt for this episode. I'm just going to ask you, Kyle, when is the apocalypse coming, and what's your prediction of the apocalypse?
God, I could give like such a grim, real answer right now, and I shouldn't.
Yeah, but that's no fun.
The apocalypse is coming. All right. Temporally speaking, you want to know like when the apocalypse will arrive here on planet Earth? Is that kind of the idea?
What's the is there some sort of event that will mark its happening? Is like what is the apocalypse looking like for you?
As far as I'm concerned, the apocalypse will always be tomorrow.
Okay.
So when you listen to this, maybe you're like, oh, I found this cool new podcast. It gets weird. But you're like, you're a couple episodes ahead. You go back, you check this one out. When you listen to this episode, the apocalypse will be tomorrow.
Okay.
If you are, basically the apocalypse is permanently tomorrow. And I want to say now too, like the apocalypse is now. But the apocalypse is definitely tomorrow. That I can guarantee for sure. The apocalypse might be now, but I can guarantee it's tomorrow. When you hear this.
I like that.
Whenever you ask the question, when is the apocalypse coming? Always you can answer it with, it's tomorrow.
So really, the apocalypse, more than anything, it has a cosmic sense of irony.
Sure. Let's go with that. It
specifically is looking at someone and saying, you have gotten too big for your britches to understand. So bye Earth. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm into
it. What about you? Have you done have you crunched any numbers? Mine was sort of like a joke.
See, I think that I'm going to wrap it back into another one of my kind of favorite things here, and say that with the phantom time hypothesis being a thing, I think that if it actually is the world will end in 2012, but in the real 2012 that doesn't have the missing time of the phantom time hypothesis. So it's like forthcoming, I think, in like it was like missing like 170 years or something like that. So we've got some time. But I think it will be the actual 2012, which will be in like approximately 150.
And the missing time thing was that there is like a significant chunk of time that I was there for that episode.
It was like episode like 4. Like it was so fucking long ago. And the gist of it was a ruler wanted to be in power on the turn of the century to the year 1000. So some people believe that he went back and had all of his scribes and everything alter the timeline so that he could be the centurion ruler, basically, and which makes him much more important for everything.
Sure.
So,
we're
taking those years back, and
that's
that's when the world.
Very optimistic view from you. Whereas my recommendation was basically just be like anxious every day forever.
Yeah. Wake up terrified.
Wake up
day.
Just horrified. Wake up in fear. And that's my suggestion this week for everybody out there.
Such a great way to end the show. All right.
How else can you end an episode about the apocalyptic comet,
Yeah,
How else?
we literally pulled the ending here of like a fucking cabin in the woods or something where the movie ends by the world ending, and so it is hard to leave that on like a bright and shiny note.
Yeah.
So I guess let's just take care of some business.
Sure.
All right. So if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/itgetsweirdpodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're almost certainly there.
Twitch.tv/itgetsweird. I've already had one spooky Halloween stream so far, but there's 2 more coming up. So Sunday, when this episode comes up, the 13th of October, 2024, I will be live streaming a spooky game. And then Saturday, the 19th of October, I will also be streaming a spooky game, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There might also be the occasional stream with friends or something in there. So if you want to, follow when we go live, give us a follow at twitch.tv/itgetsweird. Email us, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. When do you think the apocalypse is coming on the back of the Nibiru cataclysm? I've been having a lot of trouble speaking this episode. Let us know. Send us an email, and we could read it on the show like we read Weird Johns. Just let us know how you want us to address you, and we'll give you a shout out if you send us something good. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. This is the important shit, all right? Everybody at home, fucking focus up for what I'm about to tell you. We have a $1 tier. That's just a tip. You don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1. We have a $2 tier. We just had people vote on the next show. We just finished watching and discussing season 2 of the X-Files. And we let people vote on the next show. And Niall, I don't know if you've looked at the poll recently.
I have not.
It's looking like we might end up watching Evangelion.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
So I don't think I can vote on it. So like, I swear to God, I have not manipulated that poll at all. But you get at the $2 tier, you get access to It Gets Weird TV, where we discuss weird television. And if we do end up doing Evangelion, like, I have all the weird little bullshit to tell you throughout the series. So check that out. We also have a $5 tier where you get It Gets Weird TV plus bonus stuff in the off weeks. Right now, Niall and I have been doing a very fun show, in my opinion, where we kind of just talk about whatever we want to talk about. It's sometimes stuff in the world of weird. It's us. It's a lot of our tangent type discussions, all consolidated into one podcast. So check that out. $5 tier, you get so much bonus content. It's like ridiculous how much bonus content we have on that Patreon. And a backlog of it too. So whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, though, you get access to the main show on your Patreon feed 2 days on Friday instead of Sunday. So 2 days before it goes live for the rest of the world. You also get access to the Discord, where we're hanging out, chatting with listeners like you. You can talk to us directly there. It's a lot of fun. We're talking about UFOs, conspiracies, Bigfoot. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you don't get an invite to that Discord, just hit me up on the Patreon. I'm usually managing that stuff, so please just let me know if it doesn't get sent to you when you donate. If you can't donate, though, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird Podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.